Kelsey Mitchell didn't just speak her truth in a post-game interview. She owned it. And she didn't do it with ego or pettiness. She did it with a kind of clarity that hits harder than a buzzer-beater three. Because when she was asked about Caitlin Clark and this suddenly red-hot Indiana Fever squad, Mitchell didn't dodge the question. She didn't throw shade. She didn't give a polished PR answer. She told the truth. And that truth, it's powerful. Because it's easy to forget that before Caitlin Clark became the WNBA's box office rookie and everyone's favorite media magnet, Kelsey Mitchell was holding it down. She was putting up numbers when nobody was watching. She was staying loyal to a team that was drowning in double-digit losses.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
She was fighting for a franchise that, quite frankly, had nothing to offer her but hope. And now, years later, the hope has finally turned into something real, tangible, dangerous. The Indiana Fever aren't just better. They're believers. And Mitchell's interview, where she gave Clark her flowers without a hint of insecurity, wasn't just classy. It was strategic. It was a flex in the purest form. Because that's what leadership looks like. Mitchell didn't need to be the loudest. She didn't need to go viral. She let her game and her humility do the talking. And the fact that she could sit there, post-win, and confidently say, yeah, Caitlin's changed everything, while also reminding folks she's been here through the mud. That's the kind of locker room energy dynasties are built on. And speaking of Clark, can we just pause and talk about her arc for a second? She walked into the WNBA with the weight of the world on her shoulders. Every camera lens was locked on her. Every foul she took, every assist she dropped, every smirk on the sideline, scrutinized, dissected, debated. But she never folded. She adapted. She adjusted to the physicality, the politics, the pressure. And now, she's not just surviving. She's leading. What's happening in Indiana is rare. This isn't just star power. It's star power being embraced by veterans who have every reason to be bitter, but choose instead to build. You could feel it in that interview. Mitchell and Clark are no longer just teammates. They're co-architects of a blueprint that could define this franchise for the next decade. You see it in the way they move on the court. Mitchell's underrated ability to control tempo, to shift gears, to slice through defenses and create lanes, it finally has a counterpoint. Clark's court vision, her range, her ability to draw double teams from half court, that's Mitchell's green light to cook. And what's more impressive is how unforced it feels. There's no tension, no fake smiles, just real respect. It's rare in any pro league, let alone one with this much noise surrounding one player, to find such authentic chemistry. And that chemistry, it's infectious. Aaliyah Boston is back to being her dominant self. Grace Berger is settling in. Nalissa Smith's confidence is rising with every possession. Heck, even the bench players are playing like they've got something to prove. Because they do. Because suddenly people care. This team has gone from afterthought to agenda setter. From rebuilding to revenge tour. But none of it works without the balance. Without the understanding that this isn't about one player. It's about the power of the collective. Caitlin Clark could easily walk into that locker room and act like the savior. She has the resume, the headlines, the endorsements. But she doesn't. She jokes with her teammates. She stays late. She learns. She listens. That's what real stars do. They shine, but they don't burn everyone else in the process. And Mitchell? She could have been resentful. She could have played the I was here first card. But instead, she leaned in. She elevated. And in doing so, she reminded everyone that leadership doesn't always mean being the loudest voice. Sometimes, it's the one who stays steady through the storm and then holds the door open for the sunlight to come in. That's the real story here. Not just the wins, not just the highlights. It's that the Fever are building something sustainable, something rooted in respect. And that's what separates flash-in-the-pan teams from dynasties. When Mitchell said she'd be willing to take a pay cut to keep this core together, that wasn't just a soundbite. That was a mission statement. That was a veteran saying, I've seen what bad looks like. This is worth protecting. And you better believe the rest of the league is paying attention. Because if Indiana keeps this momentum and the front office does their part, they could be the next problem franchise. Not in the drama sense. In the we might be watching the next dominant team take shape before our eyes sense. And this is where it gets even scarier. They're still learning. Clark is only scratching the surface of what she can do. Boston is still growing into her full two-way potential. Mitchell is more confident than ever. They've barely played a full season together, and they're already in sync. This team isn't peaking. They're evolving. And if you're a fan of the game, that should excite you. Because this is the good kind of problem, the kind where a young team clicks faster than expected, and suddenly everyone else has to start game planning around them. But make no mistake, what's happening here isn't just about basketball. It's about culture. It's about watching two women from different paths, one a highly hyped rookie, the other a seasoned vet, come together and prove that greatness doesn't require ego. It just requires buy-in. And when Mitchell looked into that camera and gave Clark her props, she wasn't just being gracious. She was being intentional. She was saying, "We see you, and we're not threatened. We're building something bigger than all of us." So if you've been sleeping on the fever, don't. If you think this is just another hot streak, look again. Because this team isn't just trending, they're transforming. And when it's all said and done, that Mitchell-Clark alliance might go down as one of the most unexpected and powerful partnerships in WNBA history. So tell me, are you watching? Because history isn't just being made, it's being co-written. And if you're here for it, do me a favor, drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's talk about leadership, loyalty, and building something that lasts. And while you're at it, subscribe. Because this isn't just another win. It's the beginning of something legendary. Here's the thing about greatness. It doesn't just show up in box scores. It doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers. It shows up in a quiet pass, a small sacrifice, a moment of eye contact between teammates who know exactly what the other one's thinking. That's what's happening in Indiana. It's not just a basketball story. It's a story about belief. And belief is contagious. We talked about Kelsey Mitchell already, about her grace, her grit, her willingness to give credit where credit's due, and her decision to stand with Caitlin Clark instead of against her. But what we haven't fully unpacked is just how rare that is. In a league where tension around hype, airtime, and favoritism has been bubbling all season, Mitchell choosing to lean into unity? That's leadership most people never see coming. Let's be honest, this could have gone sideways fast. Caitlin Clark came into the WNBA with a media circus trailing behind her. Whether she wanted it or not, she was the storyline. Every interview was about her. Every camera angle, every headline, every fan poll. That's the kind of spotlight that can create resentment in a locker room overnight. But Mitchell, she didn't flinch. She recognized the bigger picture. She didn't see Clark as a threat. She saw her as a catalyst. The kind of player who could shift not just the culture of a team, but the trajectory of a league. And that kind of perspective, that's not just mature, it's visionary. Because Kelsey Mitchell didn't need the spotlight. She'd already proved herself in silence. She had weathered seasons where the fever were barely even a conversation. She stayed. She worked. She scored. She led. And now, with the team finally getting national attention, she's not demanding her flowers. She's planting new ones. That's why this team works. Everyone in that locker room is playing their role to perfection, not out of obligation, but out of shared conviction. They believe in the system, in each other, and most importantly, in the mission. This isn't just about making the playoffs. This is about building a dynasty. And they know it. You can see it in the way Clark defers to Mitchell on veteran calls. You can see it in the way Boston defends her teammates like it's personal. You can see it in the way players celebrate each other's wins. Not just when the cameras are rolling, but when nobody's watching. That kind of culture, you don't buy that with hype. You earn it. And now, it's translating. On the court, in the standings, in the fan base. This is a team that's figuring out how to win and still have fun. You know how dangerous that is? Dangerous in the best possible way. Because let's be clear, Caitlin Clark is not just a scorer. She's a connector. She draws defenders, attention, and headlines, but she also draws people in. She's got that rare charisma that turns pressure into performance and adversity into opportunity. And with someone like Kelsey Mitchell backing her, pushing her, covering her blind spots, it's a wrap. They're not just building chemistry, they're building trust. And the league better take notes, because this duo isn't just a one-season story. They're planting roots. Mitchell even hinted she'd take less money if it meant keeping this core together. Think about that. In today's game, where players switch teams like outfits and loyalty is often PR deep. That's real. That tells you all you need to know about what's brewing in Indiana. But let's talk big picture for a second. Why does this matter? Why should a Mitchell-Clark moment go beyond the usual highlight reel? Because it redefines what leadership looks like in women's sports. Too often, we're sold this narrative that there can only be one woman on top. That one star must fall for another to rise. That conflict is inevitable, and that team chemistry is just a nice bonus, not the backbone of greatness. But Indiana is proving otherwise. They're showing that two leaders, one established, one ascending, can coexist, not by staying out of each other's way, but by amplifying each other. Clark brings the heat. Mitchell brings the calm. One draws the crowd, the other controls the pace. It's like jazz, organized chaos that somehow just works. And guess what? Fans feel that. They see it. They believe in it. Because when a team isn't just playing to win, but playing for each other, you can tell. That's what makes the Fever different. That's why they're gaining fans, not just clicks. Because there's heart behind the hustle. There's intention behind every play. Even the bench energy feels different. These women aren't waiting for their turn. They're celebrating every moment like they own it. And that energy? That's not accidental. That's culture. And culture wins championships. But now here comes the challenge, sustaining it. Now that they've got the league's attention, now that the cameras are staying on past the buzzer, the question becomes, can they keep this up when the pressure multiplies? When expectations rise? When a hot streak cools and the grind sets in? If Kelsey Mitchell's interview was any indication, yes, they can. Because she didn't speak like someone impressed with herself. She spoke like someone hungry, like someone who knows they've just scratched the surface. And that attitude, that's contagious. So here's where we land. This isn't just a cute little Cinderella story anymore. This is real. The Fever are no longer just the team with the #1 draft pick. They're the team with a vision, with depth, with cohesion, with the kind of leadership you don't teach, you just recognize when you see it. Mitchell sees the moment. Clark is stepping into it. And the rest of the league? They'd be wise to watch closely. Because a storm is coming, and it's wearing red and navy. If you're a real fan of the game, this is the moment to lock in. Because what we're witnessing in Indiana isn't just a hot streak. It's the birth of a legacy. And legacies? They don't come around often. So the next time someone tells you women's basketball is all about one player or one storyline, send them a clip of Mitchell praising Clark. Then send them a clip of Clark throwing a no-look dime to Mitchell. Then show them a scoreboard. And when you're done, look them in the eye and say, welcome to the future. The Indiana Fever aren't just playing great basketball. They're rewriting the script in real time. And what makes it so thrilling isn't just the wins. It's the why behind them. It's the unspoken chemistry, the mutual respect, the way this team, against every odd, has clicked faster than anyone could have predicted. We already know the usual sports narratives. One star rises, another fades. New blood replaces old. Egos clash. Someone's always on the verge of demanding a trade. But this? What's unfolding in Indiana right now? It's the anti-drama drama. A team that should be dealing with internal tension, based on media obsession, rookie vet politics, and outside noise, is instead thriving. Why? Because leadership is being shared, not hoarded. Because experience and youth aren't at odds. They're in alignment. Because instead of trying to control the spotlight, Kelsey Mitchell stepped back and adjusted the lighting to make sure everyone shines. It's rare, and it's magnetic. Now let's not pretend everything has been smooth sailing. This league has pressure. And let's be real, Caitlin Clark didn't just show up to applause. She walked into a locker room with teammates who had been grinding, losing, and sacrificing long before her arrival. That kind of energy, even with good intentions, can disrupt balance. But Clark? She didn't bulldoze her way in. She earned her space. Day by day, rep by rep, play by play. She listened. She adapted. She didn't act like she had all the answers. And that humility? That's how you earn trust in a room full of professionals. You don't walk in saying, "I got this." You walk in and ask, "How can I help us win?" And Mitchell? She saw that. She felt that. And when she got in front of that mic after another big win, she didn't hesitate. She made it known, this isn't Caitlin Clark's team. This isn't Kelsey Mitchell's team. This is our team. And you can't coach that kind of unity. You can't fake it. You can't manufacture it in a preseason press conference. It only shows up when the game's on the line and 5 people lock in with one heartbeat. And that's exactly what's happening. This Fever squad has stopped chasing validation. They're not worried about ESPN segments or Twitter praise. They're showing up every night with one goal: build something bigger than hype. You watch the way they celebrate each other's success. It's not performative. It's genuine. Clark drains a deep 3. Mitchell's clapping before the net, even swishes. Mitchell breaks down a defender. Boston's screaming from the bench like she just hit a buzzer beater. That's family energy. It matters. Because in sports and in life, you don't just need talent. You need belief. You need a why. You need people who understand that winning isn't just about stats or highlights. It's about trust. That trust shows up in transition when Mitchell cuts without the ball, knowing Clark's going to find her. It shows up on defense when Clark rotates to cover Mitchell's missed assignment without a second of hesitation. That stuff? That's championship DNA. And sure, they're not there yet. But the pieces are clicking like a puzzle you didn't even know you had all the corners for. Let's talk legacy for a second. Because both of these women, Mitchell and Clark, are crafting theirs right now. Every possession, every press conference, every quiet moment behind the scenes that the cameras never capture. Kelsey Mitchell's legacy will be that of the vet who stayed through the storm, stayed when the stands were half empty, stayed when every loss chipped away at the joy of the game, but never stopped believing. Caitlin Clark's legacy is still being written, but here's what we do know. She came in with pressure that would have cracked most people. And instead of crumbling, she let it shape her. Not harden her, but sharpen her. And now, together, they're building a culture that could change the way teams are formed going forward. They're proving that you don't have to tear someone down to build something up, that a star doesn't have to eclipse others to shine, that greatness multiplies when shared, not diminished. But here's the twist that nobody saw coming. This is happening in Indiana. No super team, no coastal media circus, no prepackaged franchise, just a team that believed before anyone else did. And now, everyone's watching. Because when teams like this find their rhythm, the league shifts. You start to see other franchises take notes. You start to hear other players talk about chemistry and culture, not just contracts and stats. And for fans, this is the kind of team that's easy to root for. Not because they're perfect, but because they're real. You feel the grind in Mitchell's footwork. You see the weight Clark carries with every game. You hear it in the interviews, in the subtle jokes, in the way they move with purpose. They're not chasing a highlight reel. They're chasing something lasting, and they're doing it together. So yeah, Kelsey Mitchell didn't hold back, but not in the way you might think. She didn't vent or rant. She didn't call out haters or throw shade. She uplifted. She reminded everyone what it looks like when you prioritize the we over the me. And in doing so, she lit a fire that's not going out anytime soon. This team is coming. And if you're not paying attention yet, you're about to be late to the dynasty. So let's end on this. We're watching something rare, something beautiful, something bigger than basketball. Mitchell, Clark, Boston, Smith, Hull, Berger. They're not just players. They're pieces of a movement. And it's only just beginning. You can feel it in the arena. You can feel it on the timeline. You can feel it in the post-game pressers where players don't sound rehearsed or guarded. They sound alive, present, bought in. And how often can you say that about a franchise that, just a year ago, was buried at the bottom of the standings and barely a blip in national coverage? This isn't just a turnaround. This is a rebirth. And while Caitlin Clark may have brought the spark, it's Kelsey Mitchell who kept the embers burning through the darkest nights. That's what people need to understand. It's not one or the other. It's both. It's legacy and freshness. Veteran and rookie. Fire and patience. The thing about Kelsey's comments in that now viral interview, they weren't just complimentary. They were strategic. She knows exactly what she's doing. She's laying a foundation in real time, not just for her team, but for how the league sees them, how the media frames them. She's flipping the script. Because for so long, the WNBA has been plagued by narratives that pit players against each other, that amplify division instead of unity. But this? Mitchell stood up and chose alignment. She chose to validate Clark without diminishing herself. That's what confidence actually looks like. And make no mistake, Clark returned the favor. She's constantly giving credit to her teammates, calling them the engines of the team, the glue, the backbone. This isn't false humility. It's awareness. She knows the spotlight burns hot. She knows eyes are on her. And she's using that attention to shine light on everyone else in the room. That's real leadership. That's the kind of unselfish mentality that turns good teams into great ones. Now here's the scary part. For everyone not in Indiana, they're not even at full power yet. Clark is still learning the pace of the pro game. Boston is still expanding her offensive arsenal. Mitchell is finally getting the respect she's always deserved. And the role players? They're thriving. They're locked in. They know their assignments. They're trusted, not just used. This is what team building should look like. No gimmicks. No shortcuts. Just shared effort, real respect, and undeniable chemistry. So, if you're a Fever fan, enjoy this moment. Savor it, because you've waited a long time. And if you're just tuning in, welcome. You picked the perfect time to jump on board. The Fever aren't a Cinderella story. They're not an overnight sensation. They're a problem, and they're here to stay. So what do you think? Can this team ride their momentum all the way to a title in the next few years? Or are they just laying the groundwork for something even bigger? Let us know in the comments. And of course, hit subscribe, because this isn't just a team to watch. It's a movement, and it's just getting started.